Hello, this is Dan Farisi, Editor-in-Chief with Commercial Integrator. So happy to be joined this afternoon by Justin Shang, who is VP, Global Sales and Marketing and General Manager with Jupiter. Thanks so much for joining me, Justin. I appreciate you taking the time.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dan. I really appreciate you having us on the opportunity to talk to you on this platform.
So let's talk a little bit about Jupiter. Obviously, it's a very well-respected and well-known brand, 40-year history in the video wall processor space. Tell me a bit about that history and kind of the brand equity that you've worked so hard to build.
Sure. So Jupiter was founded in June of 1981. We really did invent the video wall processor. At that time, it was two windows on a wall, but it was something that nobody had done at that point, almost as a custom project for UCSF Medical Center up here in San Francisco. From there, the founders, one of whom is still our VP of engineering, saw a business opportunity, saw a way to kind of innovate how people were consuming information, made a company of it, incorporated it, and grew it from there. Over that 40 years, we've kind of continued that path of innovation from, not just the video wall processor. We were the first one to have a Windows-based video wall processor, which allowed much more interoperability with other programs and different applications that went into the control room. We were the first people to have a video over IP, AV over IP. Our PixelNet system, which was really launched in about 2006, was the first commercially available AV over IP platform, and has since continued to grow. We're in our second rev of that, and PixelNet is sort of the unquestioned leader in terms of, scaling the video wall processor space. Our largest systems have north of 100,000 inputs and 1,000 outputs as a totality. We run entire countries in some of our instances. With that, we continue to innovate. So our software layer is a platform that we call Canvas, allows the users in the control room space to interact with each other, to easily modify the feeds that they're seeing on the wall, to grab the correct information, display it how they want, whether that's on a video wall, on their laptop, on a monitor at a desktop, mobile devices, you name it. It really allows people to get the information they need in order to make those critical decisions. And so Canvas has kind of evolved. We're coming up on our 7th generation of Canvas with a relaunch of that platform in terms of a new UI, bringing it into kind of the modern era, and really adding an enhanced level of mobile functionality, both in and out from the video feed space. 2 years ago, Jupiter was purchased out of InFocus as an independent US company with kind of the vision of, continuing that path of innovation. We have, over the years been the guy behind the wall or in the IDF processing the data, right? Taking that feed, switching it, sending it, stretching it, doing whatever, manipulating it that way. But the next thought is how do we kind of continue our leadership in this space? And the logical place is in the devices that are pointing the light at our eyeballs. So we came out with two platforms, two families of products that are coming to market right now. One of which is called Xavis. It's DirectView LED. We've got a couple of lines of Xavis, and we'll launch that commercially later this year. Both an active matrix DirectView LED as well as an ultra-fine pixel pitch DirectView LED. On the active matrix, we're also the only people with DirectView LED with a camera embedded in the LED itself. We've shown it a couple of times in kind of pre-production instances, and we'll have that to market by Q3 commercially. We also launched Pana, which is our 21:9 aspect ratio large format display. And the genesis behind that is our founder spent 10 years in the motion picture business prior to getting into the technology space, and loves the aspect ratio, understands that, we as human beings consume information, from our field of view that is significantly wider than it is tall. I would venture to say that if you have two monitors on your desk right now, they're sitting side by side, they're not stacked on top of each other. It's just how a more ergonomic, comfortable way for us to pull all of that disparate information in. But we as an industry have been doing 16:9 forever because it was easier to manufacture and kind of became the standard. And Thomas Edison 100 years ago said, make it 4x3, and it kind of grew from there. We found a way to kind of disrupt that, and we brought our 16:9 monitors out. We've got a 105-inch diagonal and an 81-inch diagonal, both interactive and non-interactive versions. That we really feel are going to transform the enterprise space, the meeting space, and even some of the signage and experiential spaces with those devices.
So I think we've established that over the 40 plus years Jupiter has been in existence, it's been an incredibly busy 4 decades, a lot of innovations, a lot of product launches. So let's now talk about kind of the future, as you were kind of hinting at. 21:9 displays. Are they a winner from your perspective, from Jupiter's perspective? Why, if so, are they a winner?
Well, we think they're a winner. I mean, we invested in it. We're bringing them to market. So we're making that bet on it. But I think more importantly, the feedback we're getting from the market is showing us that they're a winner. The feedback that we're getting from, some of our very early installs in some experiential spaces, being able to put that 105 in portrait mode and take the place of what was going to be direct view LED at a much rougher pitch, lower resolution. We could put a 5K panel in there for 1/10 of the cost of what a comparable direct view LED would be. From an integrator space, and I spent years in commercial integration before I came here, the 105 is light and only weighs 150 pounds. It's maneuverable enough to get in an elevator. It mounts on a standard mounting system. You don't have to reinforce the wall. And you've got 8 feet by 3.5 feet of pixels that you're driving with a single input and a single power cord. From the integrator space alone, that resonated with me before I ever came to Jupiter. It's like that's huge, right? I mean, we've all in this space popped windows out of multi-story buildings and rented a crane to get a Surface Hub up to the 4th floor, or a 98-inch 16:9 that there's no other way to get it into the building. Our products can come in and out from a serviceability standpoint. You don't have to build a building around it. And we believe that they're, again, a much better way to view the information and consume the information.
So let's talk about some of the verticals. For example, meeting rooms, leveraging advances in technology, advances that Jupiter is at the forefront of. How do you see meeting rooms changing? Where does Jupiter see things going, whether with respect to 21:9 displays or just in terms of your continuing investment and advancement of video wall processing? Where are these meeting rooms going?
Sure. So we see meeting rooms really as the library when we were all in college. And it's an analogy I like to use because the office it's not optional, but it's sort of much more transitory than it used to be. Knowledge workers are not in the office 8 to 5 days a week anymore. The whole, whatever the future of the workspace looks like, it looks like some sort of hybrid work environment where you spend some time at home, doing your emails, doing your expense reports, doing the things that you do as an individual. You come into the office as more of a meeting space, collaborate with your peers in those instances where 1 + 1 really does equal 3. So you need that face-to-face interaction. You need to be able to sit around a table and whiteboard and brainstorm. And then you leave and you go home and you do the finish up stuff. So we see the future of the workspace looking more and more like that. And also from a company standpoint, we see the organizations having to almost entice the workers to come back. Mm-hmm. It really is sort of we have to give them a reason to want to come back to the office, as opposed to, I'll go back, earlier in my career, you showed up at 8, you did your 9 hours or whatever it was, and you left. And that was the schedule. And if you were 10 minutes late, your boss was going, why weren't you here at 8 o'clock? So that world doesn't exist anymore. At least it doesn't exist anymore in the corporate space. So getting people enticed to come in there in part means giving them cool workspaces with tools they like, with, kind of the latest and greatest toys. So from our perspective, the 21:9 aspect ratio really fits in there. It has a different look than the same old monitors we've been looking at for 30 years. It also, from the collaboration space, Microsoft in particular, in their newest MTR documents that they're sending out, they're recommending for larger rooms these ultra wide aspect ratio displays. And they were going down this path for years, you know, sort of independent of us, or I should say we were going down the path independent of them. But it's kind of a happy collision at this point where we're able to provide them with this, you know, 105-inch monitor in the aspect ratio they're looking for to really help with their new front row layout, to bring it back to what codecs used to be when AV really started, where you had people on one side and content on the other, and a pretty clear delineation of that. Microsoft's new front row layout for their MTRs gives you that sort of look and feel where you can still get the eye-to-eye contact, because why else would you have a video conference? And display the information in a way that people can actually consume it. So that being said, if you look at some of their new documentation, it fits with where the market's going. And it fits with where we see collaboration going in the future, in that it's new, it's cool, it's a tool that will help workers actually accomplish whatever their individual jobs are, and then they can go about the other stuff that they do. The other thing from an integrator and a corporate side is, I'm only managing one monitor now. I'm not managing two devices with dual power, you know, two power supplies, two connections, a splitter, two mounting systems that I have to continually keep aligned because they always come out of alignment. People complain about it. I don't have to match color temperatures between the two monitors because they look funny and somebody complained about it. It is a single device that you have to manage. It's hanging on the wall, plug it into whatever the source is. And from an ease of use and a supportability standpoint, we feel like it's 50% of the work, because it's 50% of the devices, at least. It could be 25% of the devices if you're replacing a 2x2 with.
That so well resonates with the zeitgeist of the industry as I see it, which is people want simplicity, they want ease of use, they want to have fewer help desk tickets, they don't want to have to ask for support, they want stuff to be intuitive and easy. And what's more, I certainly agree with you that we need to entice people not just back to the office, but back to basically out-of-home environments after more or less 2 years of being shut in. So if we can leverage our technology and leverage innovations like those of Jupiter to entice people out of their homes and back to the workplace or back to wherever it might be, I think that really is kind of a powerful value proposition at this point, isn't it?
I agree. I mean, and if you look at some of the organizations that I've been dealing with my entire career, I'm in the Silicon Valley. They've been saying since the pandemic started, our productivity's gone down, our innovation's gone down, because we really do need our people together, collaborating and interacting with each other. And work from home is great because it keeps our employees safe, and it keeps, you know, it protects the people, but it does take a hit on the productivity side. So being able to entice them to come back, still offer them some of that flexibility, you know, if Omicron pops up again or whatever the next variant is going to happen, people can work from home for a couple of weeks, then they come back to the office on specific occasions or specific things. It gives them that flexibility to do that, but at the same time, it provides tools that are attractive and makes you want to come back to the office, as opposed to, you know, sitting on your couch with your flannel on and doing your work on your lap.
So over the last 10, 15 minutes, we've covered a lot of different topics: Jupiter's heritage, its history, 40 plus years in the industry, its investment in and belief in the 21.9, and also just observations about how meeting rooms are changing and how technology can kind of be a magnet to potentially draw people back into these communal, shared out-of-home spaces. Is there anything you would like to add or amplify?
I think, you know, on the commercial side, especially for the audience that we're talking to here, one thing I want to add is, you know, Jupiter's a channel company. We've been an AV channel company for the entirety of our history and are continuing to do so. So we deliver all of these through traditional AV integration companies. And we partner with them. Most of our staff at one time or another work for an integrator. So we understand the market. We want to be a company that makes it easy for an integrator to work with. The other thing is, we've done a lot kind of leading up to this, especially with the new product launch in terms of supply and inventory, where we're not getting hit by a lot of the inventory and supply chain concerns. I'd like to think it's because we're smarter, but a big chunk of that really is because as we started on the development process, we had to, and it was part of the process. So that when the crunch came, we still had inventory, we still had raw components that we were putting together and putting on boats and getting shipped over here to the US. So we've got that, we've got inventory to fulfill your needs, I guess is the best way to put it. And it doesn't look like we're really going to be anywhere constrained as far as delivery on either the displays or the video wall processing family.
Having inventory to fulfill people's needs and not being constrained in delivery is a distinguishing factor these days. So
it certainly is. I'm hearing horror stories out there from my buddies in the industry.
yeah, so that is worth amplifying. Well, thank you so much, Justin. I really do appreciate you taking some time to share with Commercial Integrator and our audience and with me what's going on with Jupiter and your perspective on the important issues in the industry and in the market right now. So happy to have been joined by Justin Xiong, who is VP, Global Sales and Marketing, General Manager with Jupiter. I once again am Dan Farisi, Editor-in-Chief of Commercial Integrator, and once again, really appreciate those insights.
Thanks, Dan. Enjoy talking to you. You have a great afternoon.
Likewise.